purpose of this video is to teach you how to use the heel-toe technique to produce fast doubles while you're playing faster beats, while still conserving energy and playing more consistently. One of the first things to consider when learning this technique is what footwear you'd prefer to use. You can go barefoot, socks, or even wear shoes. But for those of you who prefer to wear shoes when playing, I'd highly recommend going barefoot or wearing socks when you're first learning this technique. And the reason being, you have a little bit more control over the different parts of your foot because you can bend it, and whereas a shoe would kind of constrict that movement. Now once you've mastered this technique, you can play with the bulkiest of shoes, light shoes, whatever you prefer. It's just easier when learning to go with either barefoot or socks. Okay, now we're going to break down the technique and how you actually perform it on a flat surface like carpet here before we take it onto the pedal itself. So what we're going to do here is perform the motion that produces the double. On a flat surface, you can get used to moving your foot like this before actually trying to learn how it affects your pedal. So you want to get used to this motion here. You can see the heel hits, weight is transferred to your toes, and then your toes with this motion spring up, and you bring your foot up for another double. Now most of the work is done by the ankle here and the heel, and that's what's bringing your foot up. It's just like jumping. It comes sort of from your calf. It doesn't come from your upper leg lifting your leg. It comes from your foot pushing up and springing. It's just like jumping. And with this little whipping motion here, it's actually easier than just jumping like this. That's one thing they teach actually in sports and volleyball and stuff. They teach you to land on your heel and then move your weight forward and jump off your toe. It's actually much easier to get some height, some speed, and consume less energy this way. Another thing you're going to notice here is I'm getting two distinctive different sounds. I'm getting the heel and I'm getting the toe. I'm not getting a muffled sound like this. That's like just a transfer of weight. I'm getting a heel and then a toe sound. You can hear the double right in that. And you want to be able to control this. You want to be able to slow it down and speed it up. So you can slow it down like, and then speed it up. And of course, if you had 2 feet and you're using double bass, you could get some really fast speeds going because while this foot is up in the air getting ready to do its double, this foot is doing its double. So get really comfortable with that motion, and then we're going to take it and apply it on the pedals. Okay, now I'm going to break down the technique for you on the pedal itself. What I first want to explain though is that this is a 2-part lesson. In the first part I'm going to be teaching you how it feels as a drummer to be playing this on the pedal, and how it feels like this heel-toe technique that I'm teaching. And I've taught this way for months and months, taught dozens of drummers how to use this technique, and it completely makes sense to them and they can play it. But the second part of the lesson is going to break down with slow motion camera exactly what your foot is actually doing and why it should really be called a toe-toe technique, and what's really truly happening with the pedal and how it's actually producing the double. Now, the first part is going to give you all that you need to learn the technique and how it feels as a drummer, but the second part of the video is just going to give you that slow motion perspective to give you just a little bit more grasp and understanding to what's really going into this technique, and perhaps that's the breakthrough that you need to be able to play the technique, though this first part should completely explain it. Okay, so here's the heel-toe technique on a pedal. You can see I'm applying the same motion here, but applying it up on the pedal. And one thing you'll notice is the angle difference. If you're used to playing it on the carpet, you're used to foot being flat. Now that it's up on the pedal, it's up on a bit of an angle. But there's actually an advantage to learning it on the carpet. There's a reason why you want to learn getting used to this angle and then applying it up on the footboard here. And the reason being, I'm going to explain when I show you the slow motion video and show you exactly what's happening and why having your foot used to this angle as opposed to this angle actually helps you when you're playing this technique. But here, I'll keep showing you this technique just in case you want to break it down and follow along. An important thing to understand about this technique is that it's just as easy to play as a single. Once you're completely used to it, once you've mastered it, after a couple of weeks of practice, depending on what your routine is and how much you practice a day, once you've mastered it, it's going to be just as easy for you to play as singles. If you watch the leg motion here, and watch what my leg actually does, it's the exact same as a single. It takes the same amount of energy. And once you're used to the foot motions, it's going to be a no-brainer. So you can see the single, now the double. My leg here is doing the exact same motion. And you can see, with some warm-up, with a little bit of practice, you can get excellent consistency. The doubles are sounding the same. They're being consistent and properly timed. And actually, if you get really comfortable with the technique, you can break apart what space of sound you want in between the two hits. So if you're playing really slow, you can see what's happening there. I'm just giving a little bit more break in between the two hits. Or if you're playing fast, you can get a little bit faster speed from there. So the more you practice this, the more patience and the more time you put into it, you'll get that extra level of control which you need to be able to play this technique at various speed levels. So you're going to want to get used to spacing that out. So if you've learned it at one speed, maybe play to a different metronome speed. Okay, now we're going to break it down with slow motion video so you can actually see what's really happening. Now, the first thing you notice is the heel actually doesn't make a hit. The heel is not on the foot pedal, so it actually can't make the first hit. All the heel does is act like a stopper for the first toe hit. So the toe comes down, hits the footboard, the heel stops the foot in place, and then the toe follows through for a second hit and lifts the foot back up. Now this is why practicing on the carpet at that flat angle gets you used to having your toe follow through lower on the first hit. So it's really not a complete heel hit. It's your foot coming down, making contact with the pedal, with your heel stopping, and then following through with the toe hit. So that carpet motion really comes through and helps you because it gets used to your foot being in that same angle because you do want your toe making contact with the footboard right away. Whereas on carpet, it's actually about an inch off the ground. So getting used to this motion, you can see the heel makes contact with the footboard, stops the foot, and the foot follows through. Now what I've discovered, because of this, you can actually play this technique if you've got really, really large feet that can't rest on the footboard. And we'll cut back to regular speed here, and you can see if I play this technique back here with my heel on the carpet, you can still play this technique as long as your foot has a place to stop. So you can see my heel's nowhere near the footboard, so playing this theoretical heel-toe technique should be nearly impossible. But watch how the heel here stops the foot and the toe does the second hit. Same motion, and what's happening is the heel stopping, the toe is making contact at this level because you're used to this angle, not used to this angle, and then your toe follows through for a second hit. Now I don't practice the heel-toe technique like this with my foot half off the board, but if I did, I'd probably have the exact same consistency and acoustics playing it like this as I do with my foot completely up on the footboard. So what you have to realize is as long as you have your heel at a place that can stop flat, you can play this heel-toe technique no matter how big your feet are. As long as your heel has a place to stop, let your toe fall through for the second hit, you can play this technique anywhere. Along with this video, I've provided an exercise page that has 5 beats on it that are designed to slowly develop your double technique, so that you can slowly put more and more doubles into your beats, and eventually, once you're doing the last beat, you can just do consistent doubles in a timed environment while keeping time with the ride or the hi-hats and playing a beat with the snare. Along with the video, I also sent a second page which contains 5 beats you can use the heel-toe technique in. These beats break away from the punk beats from the exercise page and give you a little bit more of a formal playing situation to use them in. A little bit more complex, not too complex, but just a little bit more than the punk beats. And you're actually applying the technique in 2 different ways. The first 3 beats, you're using it to produce 16th notes within the beats, and the last 2, you're using it to create 32nd notes. So this gives you the same technique in 2 totally different applications, so that you can get a little bit more comfortable and more confident with using the doubles.